you were talking earlier on social media that it's social and there is an exchange. Do you feel that we are more inclined to become consumers with social media, and then that kind of expands out into real life when we are scrolling through, and that's all we do? There is no exchange. There is no social interaction.
I'm sure Jessica's probably seen it too, where just kind of rules of etiquette, social interaction seems to not exist. And you can, not all the time, but you can kind of trace it back to what is their device usage? What is their social media usage?
Kids and adults they say so many more things behind the screen than they would in person. They're so much braver behind the screen than they would be in person. And I see kids in my office every single day because of bullying and the depression rate and anxiety and all of the things because of bullying and the things that happen over the phone and in person too, but a lot of it happens over the phone.
With social media, yeah.
We see that people are saying things online that maybe when we were growing up, they wouldn't say to each other in real life. But do you think that it's becoming so pervasive online to say whatever you want, and then people are seeing these comments that they are taking this into real human interaction? Like, well, this is normal. This is real. Right. This is just the way we talk to each other. I mean, haven't you seen my social media feed? And is it now moving into real life that people are just spouting off whatever the same way they would when they thought they were anonymous on social media?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I even
think so.
Saw some articles up kind of addressing that exactly, about how social media is rewiring not just our brain, but society and how we interact. And so one reason to have some type of intentionality with whatever your social media interaction is going to be, and not just sit and let it happen. I think that's one of the issues. We kind of turn off our brain in a way. And something I thought was kind of on a lot of these social media usage, I'm seeing a lot of the words common sense. Like, we just need to use common sense restrictions, common sense type of interactions. And I think we would see a lot of decrease in some of those negative effects of social media. You know, going back to discussing with your kids and probably with ourselves too. A lot of time, like, one, we have to remember the internet lives forever at this point. It's practically impossible to take anything off. And so once you put it out there, it is permanent and it is real. These are real comments that you're making, but there's a real person on the other side who is going to have a whole slew of reactions to it as well. And I think that's really hard to grasp a lot of the time, even for adults, where it's just almost like a reaction, right? And you're not even thinking about, if this was my neighbor, like, would I go knock on their door and say these things to their face?
Yeah.
You know, and if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be posting it.
Yeah. Golden rule.
Golden
That's
rule.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Common sense here.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to kids and screen time, phone use, all of that, do you all feel it would be better to restrict, monitor, co-view? I know, I have family members, when they were younger, their parents had access to their social media accounts. If that's how they were allowed to have those accounts, it was, well, if you're going to have it, we're going to have eyes on it. And I know it's different probably for every family, but what are you all seeing that works?
That's a good question.
All of the above. It's a full-time job. I mean, at least at my house it is. So, I mean, currently my kids are older. My youngest is 15. She'll be 16 in September. So we are doing all of the above. So we monitor, we co-monitor. She's in athletics at school. She had to sign a contract. A lengthy contract. So we went through all of that. And we had the talk about, like, what you're posting. It's always there. You're representing your family. You're representing your school.
Your future.
Your future. If you want to go to college, it's not going to go away. all of that conversation about what that would look like. And her eyes just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, do you understand what this means? And you could be off the team and you may not go to college. And she's like, okay. And so, it was going in and so
Really
she's like,
explaining the impact.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I agree. It's all those things. Try, and I say it to myself, and I say it to patients all the time. Like, social media, internet, whatever, has made parenting harder. It has. I mean, it just it hasn't made it easier. It's just one more thing that we have to do. And so, if you can find ways to make it easier, there are programs. We have a monitoring program on all of our child devices, right? So we can remotely turn them off. We can set the amount of time they're on it, and we can set search restrictions and purchase restrictions, which are important because you can buy anything on the internet. But then it's kind of a combination of everything you said, Rachel. So there's probably going to be times when you are going to have to restrict. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense in that situation. As much as you can, co-viewing, or at least having some type of mechanism to know what that content is that they are consuming. Because it's not so much like the length of time they're on it, but what is the quality of that content, right? So if you're 5 and you're watching PBS for 45 minutes, that's probably going to be fine, right? But then if you're 5 and you're watching Terminator, that's not that gives you, there's no educational value to that, right? And so what are we consuming, and monitoring, and just, I think, being okay with changing how you're handling the device time, the screen time, the social media. I mean, like I said, our current rules, we just had enough, and so we said, you know what, there's going to be no social media on your phones until you turn 18, because my wife and I are both busy physicians, and
And it takes a lot of
it
time.
takes a lot of time, and no matter what you put on there to monitor it, you can't kind of divorce yourself from the parenting aspect, right? And so all the questions that you would ask your child before they go to a sleepover or engage in an activity, you really have to do that whole thing for every single social media kind of interaction that your kid is going to have. And so for us, we just found it easier to say, okay, we're not going to do that.
I think that's a great tip. As we kind of wrap up here, can we, even at the risk of being a little repetitious, I'm wondering if we can kind of consolidate all of our solutions, our, and a little bit of perspective. And, we have talked a lot about the potential harm and damage and whatever of devices and screens. But I think wrapping up with a little bit of perspective, not to demonize them, but just to talk about, that Goldilocks state of screens and devices. Can we wrap up with just some solutions and some perspective?
You can, do all the monitoring. You can put all these things in place, but you really just need to focus on being present with your kids. And it starts when they're young, and just forming those good relationship bonds and things like that. Because the more you talk to them and the more you know what's going on in their life, you're going to know when something is off, when they're disappearing in their room, when they're not talking about this friend anymore, when they're not sleeping well. You're going to know when something's off. That's probably the most important thing, I think.
Yeah.
And setting the example, kind of like you talked about, not the parent not being on their phone all the time and engaging with their kids, which is what you were just talking about.
Right.
But I think that's, growing up, you're seeing your parents do it and you think, okay, well, if they're doing it, then it's okay. And sometimes we just need to put the phone down and talk to each other face to face.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And nothing is, social media, screen, it's not 100% the cause of any problem. It's the way that we interact with it. And I think the power in that is that you have the ability to change it, right? And so I think now's a great time to kind of take that inventory of your social media life, your digital life, right? So how are you using it in your daily life? How are your kids using it in the daily life? If it is bringing value to your family, why change, right? But if it is causing you to lose out on that connection, if you are feeling depressed, anxious when you're on it, it's time to step away and just either find a different way to incorporate it into your life. Because like you said earlier, Rachel, it's really hard for a lot of us to step away. Like some of our jobs revolve around social media. So that's going to look different than somebody that is using Instagram or TikTok for entertainment. So if you tell yourself this is for entertainment and you're not being entertained, then that's a pretty big clue that this is not working for us, right? And I love what you said, Jessica, about connecting with your kids, because that's kind of that whole going back to monitoring. You can see it as monitoring, or you could see it as interacting with your kids. I like that kind of reframe there. Like you just spending that time. And then as your child gets older, anyone with teenage preteens know that they're not the easiest people sometimes to talk with, right? How's your day? Fine. Right. That's all you get. That's all you get. Right. But if you know that they, have a TikToker that they like to follow, they're much more likely to engage in that conversation with you. Yes. Send them a TikTok, get that interaction going. But then also as you are viewing things maybe that don't match up with your parenting style or with your ethics, you can have that discussion, right? Like, oh, in our family, this is not something that we do. Do you know why we don't, whatever this activity is, and get that discussion? Because I don't think we've mentioned it, but just, as we wrap up here, to remind ourselves, but then also our children, like not everything on the internet is true.
Yeah.
Right. And the only way to
Yes,
kind of
that's
know
really
what
important.
is that communication with your parents, because you'll see like, well, so-and-so posted, and you hear it and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who was that? What are you talking about? And let's investigate it just a little bit and not just say, well, this TikToker said that I need to do X, Y, or Z.
Right.
That's a great point. Really great point. Not everything on the internet is true. I think we as adults could benefit from that too.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this topic. There's so much to it, but I do appreciate you all's time today and your insights. It's been great and just a nice way to introduce us to some constructive use of our devices and our screen time. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.